Hi, I'm Seamless, and it's time for a new How to Synth tutorial, and today I'm going to show you how to make this sound. It gets a little wonky up there, but yeah, it's a motorcycle kind of. A student of mine was working on an audio-visual project where the sound of motorcycles was required, but this was unusually difficult to acquire in a good and isolated way. So we decided synthesizing it was a thing to try. And luckily for the project, it was intended for the thing to sound kind of like futuristic and cybery, which is good because that mostly meant just doing less work than it would to make it sound realer. But the fundamental bits are pretty straightforward, actually, for something as cool as this. Because frankly, I think this is neat. Because check this out, all right? So this whole thing is doing its thing the way it is. And then if I put on some Unison, it's basically like I'm adding cylinders. So check it out. Let's do it. Let's do a V8. Oop, I broke it. Yep, too much. It actually kind of sounds like it, which is neat. Someone's way overtuned muscle car right there. And it is, let's see, I'm pretty sure I have some Unison index mapped situations. Yeah, phase mostly. This is so that the engines would sound different, and mostly as they would in a real vehicle, like aligned and in a location relative to the instruments. So here's something really wild. We're doing all this with FM, and here you can see what's going on a little bit, like this like bam 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 situation, which is basically what an engine is, like a way that we understand internal combustion engines to happen. Like it's basically an oscillation that explodes. So that means it sort of rotates, and then there's a big thing that occurs. And this is just being it's not just that this waveform is happening, is that it's also going through, it's also being filtered. Is this actually being filtered? Shit, it's on. Has it just been on this whole time? I guess it didn't matter because it's being distorted heavily. This is a crazy hard wave folding distortion that will send this thing through. So instead of just being this, it comes through being plus it's being, but notice that every one of these extra guys is exactly half the speed of the main thing. Because this idea is that an engine is an oscillation, like expressed in steel. It's just the same actual math. It's crazy how on it is. And what this represents is this idea that like there'll be things that happen that are going to happen in relative speeds due to size and speeds in it. So that means sort of like infraharmonics. I guess it still does harmonics, to be honest. But subharmonics, there's a word for that already. Damn. Anyway, so yeah, that's what that's about. And also the idea is that it gets faster, it gets higher in pitch, but how far away they are in pitch changes. And this has to do with tuning in a vehicle, like literally tuning things, so that this doesn't happen. So that when you increase things in speed, that things are all moving in the correct lockstep. But if they don't, they get that kind of going on. And if you want that to happen, then you do that by on your speed control, which in this case is, yeah, it should have been Y. Oh yeah, because it's on pitch. You can see they're going to almost the same basic location. It's just that the curvature is different. And that's it. That's the whole thing. Because it means that there'll be a different spacing from each other pitch-wise across the increase of this particular parameter, but they'll be the same distance. So that means when I come back down, it'll behave the way that it was behaving a second ago, reliably. The same way it would in a vehicle, where you, like, hit the gas. And, like, the metal of your thing that gets thrown around settles due to gravity and whatnot, and that changes its, like, what's resting on stuff. But that changes the same, and it, like, usually stays in place until it breaks. And that's not going to happen in this oscillation, so it's just whatever. And then everything after this, and then the distortion part of it, because without the distortion, yeah. And then everything after that is a whole lot of like trying to sort of shade it. It's basically the audio equivalent of shaders, where we're trying to now convince us that what we're hearing is in a space. Now, what we're hearing right now is like the individual motorcycle. Like it's not really like in a location. You're basically standing right in front of it, and it's just there. It's not moving. It's not in a bigger space with reverb. It's not far away. Like, so this is just like the one motorcycle. And out of there, it goes. This is just another textural adjustment. But then the big main thing that happens, there's two fun ones. Basically, it's the same fun one, but it's basically this. Because you ever see the exhaust ports of large exhaust pipe vehicles, like a tractor trailer or like a big ass motorcycle or just or a really particularly overdone like regular car, you notice that they have little caps on them that blow up and down, and it basically is like doing what like what the heck are they called on a wah trumpet? I don't know, the plungers, I guess, but like, yeah, you know, one of those, or on a trombone, wah, 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 wah. It's basically that, and that what that amounts to is sort of like a low pass filter. It's a lot less, like it's a circular thing on those objects, but for this case, because it's so fast, it more or less is a low pass filter. So we beat control it, and it creates the response of as though there's a valve. And the valve is doing the pressure-based response that it does, and which includes that when it gets fast enough, it stays on. And that's you can see it happening here. So valves. That's the fun thing. But the other fun thing is like the material of the thing, basically like the metal of the mic. It's not like, again, that didn't really do a lot of air processing, but it's just the same idea. It's convolution reverb on a very short, like the toilet bowl. It's like it's a bit gross, but it's still like the real sort of like size equivalent. Like imagine the object of like an engine of a motorcycle and the size and the characteristics of it. Yeah, you know, yeah. And which one is this one? Yeah. And both of them are being adjusted in size to be smaller, I think. Yes, that's the smaller sizing. So this is basically making like this small, like this. You can think almost like of a muffler, how it has that like the tube and then the bigger container part of it. Like the stairwell is the bigger container part of it. The toilet bowl is the tube part, and that is giving us the total tonality there. And then I'm adjusting it with some of the dry and some of the extra distorted and it's in the valve, but it's in there in the signal. And then there's just some flanging and chorusing, which I'm doing instead of like particularly complicated delay work, because that's sort of what these do. And it is basically doing the job of just being like, yeah, there's echo, cool. And then it's compressed. And this is also coloration that's just kind of personal taste of like what sounds like it should be where and why. Which, like, at this stage of whatever it's going to get used in the thing it's for, when there's going to be multiple of them, and they get mixed for, like, well, when you do your mixing for, like, oh, it's far away, and it's, like, over there, and distance with the reverb and that kind of thing, like, it'll sound, like, a lot. It probably didn't need this much attention on how it sounds individually, is what I'm saying. But, just to show it off, because I thought it was neat, here it is. A motorcycle. Well, an engine, I guess. Because you can still, like... I'm just so into how much like a ridiculously overdone car it sounds. Like a Mad Max car. I also like how I kind of get why gears in transmission. I still don't. I'm not like an actual engineer. I never like tooled around with an actual engine. But just from having to deal with the oscillations to get the behavior I'm trying to get, I sort of get how like, oh, I play lower, higher notes. That's almost sort of that's what that is. That's just what that is. That is just cool. Overlap is cool. Anyway, if you have any questions about this, honestly, you probably got about as many of them as I do. But try anyway. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And as usual, have a nice day.